Now, talking of social media, yesterday we had a lot of people getting onto the platform to explain the tremors they felt in parts of Accra. After that, we contacted the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, and they actually warned of an imminent earthquake after those tremors were felt in parts of Accra yesterday. Now, this is the second incident in about 2 or 3 months, and a lot of people are concerned. I've got a senior seismologist with me. He's with the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, Mr. Nicholas Apuku. Thank you so much for joining us. First off, I'm sure a lot of people will want to understand, why do these things occur? Why would I feel the earth shaking, or why would I hear of a terrible, disastrous earthquake in another part of the world?
Yeah. No, earthquakes is a natural event, yeah, and they are caused by internal forces in the earth. And as we know from basic science, forces are simply a pull or a push of an object. You see, so there are forces, internal forces acting on our earth. So it's either pushing the earth or it's pulling and tearing it apart. So this push and pull stresses the earth. So when you push or you pull at a critical point, it breaks, because the earth cannot continue to bear any more forces. So it breaks, and when it breaks, because the energy that are stored in it is released in the form of seismic waves. And it is the energy that moves outward that shakes our earth.
You mentioned that it has to do with internal forces, but is there any human activity that can affect these forces?
Particularly with the natural events, the internal forces can be induced probably by human activities such as blasting. Okay. Because when you carry out blasting, or sometimes when they doing drilling of oil drills and those things, they inject fluids and into it sometimes generates waves which can induce either it generates waves which are recorded as artificial or man-made waves or earthquake, or they generate waves which goes to, if there are faults close by, they go to induce it to generate a natural event, which, even though it's induced, is a natural event, but it was induced by human activities.
Now, we are told that the larger part of Accra is earthquake prone.
Yes.
But do we know now why these areas, I'm talking about Weja, Bawe, Able, Kuma, some people in La reported that they felt it. Do we know why these particular areas were the ones affected?
Yes, this particular area have been experiencing earthquakes every now and then, especially in Accra.
Quakes or tremors? Or we could...
We can use both, but then you can use adjectives to qualify them as maybe either it's a minor earthquake or minor tremor, or it's a major, big earthquake, it's a disastrous earthquake, catastrophic earthquake. So normally we use adjectives to qualify them. Because for the minor earthquakes, the magnitude on a Richter scale is somewhere 4 or below. The energy that is released from these is not that huge, so it's not able to collapse structures. So those ones are referred to as minor. But as we are moving from 5 upwards, that is when we are getting a significant.
You were telling us why these areas, Weja, La, Bawe, Able, Kuma, are the ones that experience these, this tremor, particularly on Sunday, even though we are told the whole of Accra is prone.
Yes. From, I don't want to go into too much technicalities. In terms of the
you need to break it down for us to understand.
You see this mountain range, which runs through the western part of Accra, or is this, which runs from Weja all the way through Makati, through Abri. It goes all the way to Ho and even Togo. Yeah. They mark a major tectonic boundary between the West African Craton the West African Craton, and then the Pan-African Mobile Belt. And the West African Craton means stable part of the earth. Okay. So the West African Craton end is much more stable, while the eastern end, where this major mountain range lies, that is where we have a lot of earthquake occurring. So you will never hear much more of earthquakes towards the western end of even West Africa. Okay. But within, it's unfortunate, this major plate boundary, or this major tectonic boundary, falls within Ghana. Okay. The West African Craton and then the Pan-African Mobile Belt, it lies through the southeastern part of Ghana, and it is marked by this mountain range I've just, mentioned.
So it means that within the West African sub-region, Ghana is not in a good place when it comes to issues of quakes and tremors.
That's why we are experiencing much more tremors or earthquakes than other parts of West Africa.
Okay. Yesterday you said you were assessing this tremor we felt. Do we know what the magnitude is now?
Yeah, the magnitude, we estimate it to be around 4.
Around 4.
Yes.
So that
not the exact magnitude, because we still need much more data to
Okay, talking about data, do you have what it takes? Do you have modern equipment to help you determine? Because in other parts of the world, a few minutes or hours after a quake, you're told what the magnitude is. Sometimes you could even predict ripple effects of that in coming days, and you're told that, okay, look, you felt this quake at this magnitude, but expect more in the coming days. Do you have modern equipment? Do you have what it takes to do that?
Yeah, we have modern equipment. You know, even since the colonial days, as early as 1914, the colonial government installed what we call single boom seismograph, which they were using to monitor earthquakes in Ghana. It broke down, and somewhere in the 80s, we installed an analog seismic network, which we're using in the southern part of Ghana to monitor earthquakes. And then 2012, we installed what do we call it? A digital seismic network. Okay. Yeah, and it is currently one of the best, even in Africa.
So you have modern equipment?
We have a modern equipment. Okay. But the challenge is that, you know, sometimes it's easier, sometimes we install, but we don't make adequate provision for maintenance and for spare parts and all those things.
So and as it stands now, are these equipment working efficiently?
They are working. They are in the remote stations where we have placed them. We've placed some in Weja, we have some at Salt Pond, Shai Hills, Akoso Mo, even Kumasi, Lake Bosomtwe, these areas. So when an earthquake occurs and the waves are moving outward from the epicenter, the point where it breaks, the waves are moving. The time that it reaches where we have placed all these equipments, they record, and from that we can analyze to know the magnitude, the location.
Let me quickly ask, did you see this tremor coming on Sunday? You didn't pick any signals at all?
Well, predicting an earthquake is still a problem world over.
But I'm asking if you picked any signals.
You don't have the signals.
Okay, let me just bring in the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Somatremi, because he's also been speaking about your work, and sometime last week when he met the press, he explained that you are unable to fully monitor earthquake-prone areas because of power outages. Let's just take a listen to him. We'll come back quickly and wrap up this conversation. Something on Dumso, and he does mention that government has approved the installation of a solar power plant to ensure constant power to the seismometer. Let's listen to him now.
The issue of earthquake occurrence continues to threaten the country. In order to mitigate the impact of earthquake in the southern sector of the country, mapping and risk assessment in Nyanyano, Weja, Makati Hills, and surrounding areas were carried out to generate an updated geohazard risk map for planning and decision making. Power outage continues to hamper earthquake monitoring in the country. In order to carry out the 24/7 monitoring of earthquakes in Ghana, government has approved the installation of solar power at the authority earthquake seismic observatory.
So you have the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Asuma Tremors, explaining how power outages is affecting the work of seismologists in Ghana. Is that the only thing affecting your work?
That is not the only thing. The other issue that we are also having is our data transmission.
Okay.
Because as I said, we have installed these equipments in some areas that I mentioned. And when something happens, you can't easily move a vehicle to all these places to pick data, come and analyze.
How do you get the information?
We're transmitting the data through satellite to our central observatory around Jimpa.
And you have issues with your satellite service as well?
The issue we have is with our satellite service. So that's why even in the 24th March, there was another earthquake in Ghana. Because of the same problem with the data transmission, it took us a while to go to all these stations to retrieve data. That's why we couldn't give early information about
Now talking about areas that were hit by this tremor yesterday, my colleague Maxwell Agbaba has been visiting the Wager Ridge area and reports.
Yes, I did. It was in the morning. I was actually dressing my kids for church, and then it happened.
Okay. Some people are telling us that it lasted for like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Some people with experiences from different parts of the country.
Yes, ours was in like just 3-4 seconds. Yes.
3-4 seconds.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Earlier, I heard you saying that you've had this experience for like about 4 times now?
3 times. Yesterday's was the 3rd time. I think the first one was in the evening. And then the second one, I was breastfeeding at that time. I think that one too was in the evening.
Okay, are you able to tell how many years ago?
That is, my girl is 4 years, so 4 years now, yes, 4 years. And I was breastfeeding, and then it happened suddenly. Everything went off, the lights went off, my gas, everything went off. Same thing applied yesterday.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll come back to you shortly. But what's your name?
It's Edward Dompre.
Okay. Now, tell us what exactly happened yesterday. What was the experience for you?
It was around 7:50. I was dressing up. I was standing in front of my dressing mirror. So before I realized a sound was coming, so my kids was asking, "Mommy, what is happening?" I didn't know what was it. So I told them, "Wait." I just hold them, and we were standing there. So my husband said, "What happened?" But before we realized, it was just 3-4 minutes something that happened. That's all. That's happened. But I remember I've been here for the past 3 years. The first time that one happened, it happened around in the evening, as my sister said. But everything went off. Everything that was in our house went off. That was what happened. But yesterday's on, like, just 3 minutes something, and it was around 7:30, 7:50. Thereabout.
What about you, Mommy? You want to share experience with us? Okay.
Me wa kitchen me yade. Na me ti an se bibia kicking ti na me pastor kra no bisa se die na me say aminima de kro. Nti me sister na ka jam say assassin na wo so say na ye no ya wo soro so say na ye no na ye nwanwa.
Okay. Well, she said she was in the kitchen yesterday and
scary, of course. Like I told you, I'm very conscious. I think about it. Okay. And as I speak to you, early this year, I wanted to move out, but my husband was like, we should hold on.
Was it because of the warning from the EPA?
It's part, because, you can't be living here all the time, and then there will be tremors, and then you still think that you...
Maxwell Agbaba, they're speaking to some residents. Clearly, they felt a shake. What should they be doing now? She said it's the 3rd time, others have experienced it twice. What can they do to check the structural integrity of their buildings?
Well, I would advise that they should seek the services of a professional. For instance, if they come to Ghana Geological Survey Authority, we are a government institution, and we can go to wherever their structures or buildings are. We can go and do seismic or earthquake evaluation of their site. Okay. We can get engineers to come and also do structural integrity, so that they will be able to know whether the level of the earthquake, their structure can withstand the level of earthquake that may happen in future. If yes, fine. If not, then they can advise them probably to do some retrofitting to improve on the seismic resistance of their structure.
Exactly what I was going to ask you. You've recommended total evacuation in some of your interviews. Quickly, briefly, if you can. What about considering, like what countries like Japan do, putting up buildings that are more earthquake resistant instead of asking people to leave their investments altogether?
There are two things. One is, it's unfortunate they have already developed their structures over there. So if we assess the area, maybe probably some of the building could pass a faultiness test, that in the future earthquake, those buildings could resist it. Maybe they are in a much more better ground than others. So if we do this evaluation, we'll be able to address the problem. Which buildings need to be retrofit, which buildings need to be taken off, and all those things. So if we are, they contact us, we can help in that regard.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nicholas Opoku. He's a seismologist at the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, speaking about the tremors that occurred in some parts of Accra. Coming up in business, Ghana to start issuing ECOWAS currency in 2020. Do stay for details.